All right, this is going to be a very short and sweet PowerPoint that covers verbs that end in CAR, GAR, and ZRAR in the preterite. So a lot of these verbs were your regular verbs in the present tense. I'm going to try to be quick. It's actually pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy. All right, so verbs that end in CAR, GAR, or ZAR are going to have a spelling change in the yo form. So essentially, these are going to be your irregular yo verbs. Okay, these are going to be your irregular yo verbs in the preterite. So if they end in CAR, GAR, or ZAR, only in the yo form. All right. So essentially, in the yo form, what's going to happen is if it's a CAR verb like buscar, the C is going to go to a QU, and then you're going to add its regular E with an accent mark ending. Okay, so you're going to have its regular E with the accent mark ending. All right, if it is a GAR verb, the G will go to a GU, and then the E with the accent mark in the yo form. And if it is Z will go to a C with an accent mark in the yo form. So for like the verb buscar, in the yo form, it's yo busqué, as you guys can see, with an accent mark, because remember the accent marks are pretty important. In the tu form, all right, it would be tu. You're going to bring that C back, and then you're just going to give it its regular ending. Tu buscaste. Él buscó. Él buscó with an accent mark. Right? Nosotros buscamos. And so on. All right, so just notice here that this is literally only happening in the yo form where that C is going to a QU. Same thing with llegar. Yo llegué. Tú llegaste. All right, you're going to go back to having that just normal ending where it's haste, o con acento, amos, estéis, aron. All right, notice that we have this verb empezar. Hopefully you guys remember it from your stem changing section. This is actually a stem changing verb in the present tense. Notice that it's not going to receive its stem change. We're going to talk here in just a second about stem changers because I'm going to cover CAR, GR, and ZR verbs here, but I'm also going to cover a few of your spelling change verbs. So understand that verbs that end in CAR, GAR, and ZR will have that spelling change in the first person. All right, next is going to be your irregular. It's going to be irregular third person. Irregular third person verbs. All right, so essentially what these verbs, you have verbs like caer. Remember, it was a go verb, an IGO verb in the present tense. Creer, which was a regular ER verb. Leer was a regular ER verb. Oír, remember, it was a go verb. It's yo oigo. Yo oigo. So essentially these verbs, guys, if you look in third person singular and third person plural, it's going to have a spelling change. If you didn't give it a spelling change, you would have yo or hieron. Okay. With these verbs, notice that if you do that, you have the verb cayó. All right, what happens is in Spanish you have these three vowel combinations. There's a fancy word for it. It's called a triptongo. Okay, a triptongo. You don't really need to know what that means other than you have these three vowels. And in Spanish, we don't do like we do in English where we have a silent vowel. We actually have to pronounce. There's very few times where we don't pronounce all our vowels. There's very few exceptions. And our vowels are pretty important in Spanish. So those vowel sounds, essentially, if you were to see them, they would need to get pronounced. And in Spanish, it's not that it doesn't exist. There are words where it has a three vowel combination, but they're very rare. So when you see three vowels in a row, usually you should probably question it. Usually there's probably a spelling change in the case of these verbs here, where you have creer, caer, leer, and oír. Because we have to pronounce our vowels, and because this three vowel combination is very difficult to pronounce, that I will go to a Y, and then you have cayó, y cayeron. All right, so essentially, guys, it's only happening in third person, but it's because you have that three vowel combination, and that's something that's very rare in the Spanish language. All right, so make sure you're just looking out for that. Essentially, and guys, pause this video and make sure you're taking notes as I'm speaking, and if you need to go back to pause the video to take those notes, do that. Essentially, you have this combination as well. So if you have verbs that end in UIR, again, it's going to be a irregular third person. All right. So you have construyó, where that, if you didn't do it, would be yo, and then it would be construyó. And that, guys, is very difficult, and it would be incorrect. So let's just say for pronunciation purposes, that I is going to go to a Y in third person. Same thing here. You would have hieron if you didn't change it. All right, and then you have those three vowels running together. All right. So in this PowerPoint, essentially, we've covered your irregular yo verbs. All right, so this is your irregular yo verbs, irregular third person, and let's go ahead and talk about stem changers because it's actually very simple in the preterite. So stem changing verbs in the preterite only receive their stem change if it's an IR verb. So you can make a list of IR stem changing verbs or go back into your notes for stem changers from the present tense. And if it is an IR verb, it's going to receive a stem change. AR verbs and ER verbs, however, do not. So any verbs that were stem changers in the present tense that were AR, ER, they no longer receive a stem change. So you're off the hook on that one. What I wanted you to notice is that it's going to receive its stem change, but it's going to be in third person only. All right, third person only. And in the preterite, your stem changers there are two categories. You're going to have E to I or O to U. All right, these are your two categories of stem changers in the preterite. So I would stop the video and make sure that you were writing this down. All right, so if it was an E to I stem changing verb, it's E to I now in the preterite. If it was an E to IE stem changing verb, it's going to fall under this E to I category. So verbs like preferir. All right, it was an IR verb, and it was one of those that was kind of an exception from E to IE. Okay, in the present tense. Now it's going to be an E to I in the preterite. All of your O to U E verbs are going to go O to U in the preterite, and again, it's only happening in third person, guys. It's actually pretty simple. Yo dormí, tú dormiste, él durmió, dormimos, dormisteis, y durmieron. All right, and hopefully you guys can hear a little bit of that. I probably said that a little faster than I probably should have, but that small sound difference in pronunciation with these verbs. All right, so here is a list of verbs that are stem changers. Let's see if I can't get rid of that. Okay. Well, I apologize. All right, so here's a few of your IR stem changing verbs. And guys, I know you have a list of them, so make sure you go back and you know which verbs are stem changers and which are not. So all of these are IR verbs, and they were stem changers in the present tense. So you have verbs like conseguir and seguir. Guys, they're kind of similar. Remember that this was an E to I stem changing verb, and it's going to be an E to I stem changing verb now. Consentir, all right? It has that verb sentir in it, just like this one over here, and it is an E to I stem changing verb in the present tense and in the in the past tense only. Sorry, hervir. All right, if you look at the stem, guys, of the verb, the only vowel it has in it is an E, so it's going to be E to I. Morir. You guys remember it was an O to UE stem changing verb in the present tense. Now it's going to be an O to U in the preterite. Preferir. We talked about this one. It's an E to I. Repetir, E to I. And then the rest of these are also E to I. So when you're looking at them, guys, it's actually a lot easier. And remember that the spelling, the stem change is only going to take place now in third person. Third person only. All right, so let's just do one together. Let's do preferir, because that's one that I mentioned earlier, and remember it was that weird one because it was an E to IE, but now it's an E to I in the preterite. So essentially, if I were to conjugate this and make a T-chart, right? You remember that your ending in for an IR verb is E, iste, io, imos, isteis, and ieron. Whoop. Well, that's nice that I was doing that. Ieron. All right, let me go ahead and sorry, I'm going to go ahead and change the pen color here so we can do the stem. So now look, with your stem, it would just be yo preferí. Yo preferí. Tú preferiste. Él prefirió. Again, notice that spelling change in third person. Nosotros, just like the present tense, is preferimos. Preferisteis. Y that E will go to an I. Prefirieron. All right. So guys, there's an R there. Sorry. Note that this isn't difficult. If you were pretty familiar with stem changers in the present tense, it's actually a lot easier now in the preterite. It's just remembering how and when to use these, and just, guys, third person only. All right. All right, guys. So that's the end of this PowerPoint. Again, you covered stem changers. You covered irregular third person, irregular the yo form. And guys, I know that's a lot to take in because we spent so much time on these in Spanish 1 and the beginning part of Spanish 2, and you're getting all of it kind of in, a 5-minute PowerPoint. So it's going to require practice, guys. You're going to have a lot of practice this week on just basically conjugating these verbs, because you're going to have to get used to those new endings and some of these new rules. So hopefully you've taken detailed notes, and if you have any questions, concerns, you need something to be clarified, please feel free to contact myself or your instructor for this course. And buena suerte.